a critical issue that is supposed to be addressed. The other thing is primary health care. The other thing is about the sanitation of the city. And these are some of the things that we do hope. We've seen quite a number of manifestos that are being done here and there. And we do hope that these are some of the things that are very pertinent and very to the people of Kisumu. Then there is also the issue of insecurity. And we are aware that there are quite a number of young people here and there who are not really getting something to do. And because of this has really created a lot.
Okay, so that we give everybody else a chance to speak, I'm going to move this along really fast. What are the main issues facing Kisumu according to you, and are they being addressed by the politicians?
Let's start with your name, sir. My name is Moses Odua. I'm the chairman of Kisumu Arts and Culture Guild. As an art practitioner, I feel a lot needs to be done, both by the national government and the devolved units, to make art an industry that can pay. We hope the incoming governments, both at the national and at the county levels, will pay attention to this industry that has the potential of being a multi-billion shilling industry, considering we have the talent ready. They all need to develop the software.
All right. Thank you. I'll move this along really fast. Let's start with your name, sir.
My name is Collins Kodek. I'm a human rights activist.
Are the issues in Kisumu being addressed so far by the politicians? You've heard what they've said, their manifestos and everything. Are the issues facing Kisumu being addressed today?
The NASA coalition provides the best framework to address issues affecting Kisumu, notably corruption and clanism. These are things that we must go past in this election. Yes.
Are you looking forward to voting on August 8th?
Yes, I'm looking forward to voting, plus my family and all my friends will be up very early in the morning to ensure that everybody puts his vote. Okay.
Let me move this along really fast. Let's start with your name, gentlemen.
Yes, my name is called Kale Bogomo.
What is your message to the youth like yourself? Because we've heard that this area is a hot spot. What would you say about that?
Yes, I'm happy. We remained only with 48 hours to vote. Yeah. So I'm requesting all youth to come out to vote for this election on 8th on Tuesday. Thank you very much.
All right. Let's start with the name, madam. What's your name?
My name is Mariam Abdallah. Okay. I'm a resident of Kisumu County.
Are the issues in Kisumu being addressed? Very quickly.
Yes, they are being addressed. And I believe if we work together as residents of Kisumu, then we'll be able to even make it better.
All right. Sir, let's start with your name. Really fast.
Wilson Obanda, yes. I really believe that the issues are being addressed. Leaders have come campaigning with very flowery manifestos, and what we are left to see is whether they'll be implemented. Otherwise, about this issue of Kisumu being a hotspot, I think that is hot air. It's neither here nor there. They would want to brand this part of the region as a volatile area. As you can see, Kisumu people are very peaceful. Here we are only waiting for elections. And we are keen on electing leaders who will push us forward.
All right. Thank you so much. Those are sentiments from all the Kisumu residents, just a section of them. We'll be speaking to so many of them later on in the bulletin. Remember, this area right now, according to the IBC figures in the 2017 registered voters, are 539,000 compared to 2013, where there were only 386,000. This is one region where NASA is hoping it will bag most of the votes to catapult them to the win. But right now, I take you straight to Debarl, Inea. Debarl?
Many thanks indeed, Trevor Mbija from Kisumu there. And of course, here in the studio, we have a panelist to talk about security matters as we're heading towards the general election. It's only 3 days to go. And I'm holding court this evening with the spokesperson of the National Police Service. This is Charles Owino. Also, we do have with us Captain Simiyu Werunga, who is the CEO of African Center for Security and Strategic Studies. Also, we have with us Captain Wanderi, who is an advocate of the High Court, and also he is a security analyst. Also, Professor Midamba. Midamba is an expert on defense and foreign policy, and also the Vice Chancellor of KCA University. Let's begin with you, Charles. First of all, there is a latent concern from the religious leaders. They're saying there is a scheme by the politicians who are organizing gangs in the country to try and, sort of make the elections not go smoothly right now. And they're engaging in premeditated political violence. Are you privy to this information?
First of all, let me correct you. I'm not the National Police Service spokesperson. Mm-hmm. The National Police Service spokesperson is George Kinoti.
Thank you for that correction.
I stand in for him.
All right, thank you.
But I'm staff officer in charge of PR in Kenya Police Service.
All right.
Thank you so much. I think you've just raised an issue that the church leaders, some of them, are of the opinion that some politicians are hell-bent to cause chaos in certain parts of the country. I don't think I'm privy to that, but what we know, you remember that we had come up with hotspots that many people were not comfortable with, saying that these areas are hotspots. I've just seen Kisumu, somebody saying this is not a hotspot. It's because people don't understand the meaning of getting a place as an hotspot area. It depends on the activities of that particular place. Every area has strange activities. For example, you find that a place like Kwale, we have certain gangs like the MRC in Kilifi and in Mombasa. That does not necessarily make it a hotspot because they are gangs, but it depends on what an individual politician may want to do with that particular gang. Now, it's a time for competition. You go to, like, for example, the position of governorship is a very highly competitive position in counties. And because of that, you may find probably a particular politician may decide to use a gang negatively. But what I can say is that as a service, we are prepared for any eventuality. In event that there are people who have prepared gangs or other people to interrupt the rest, then we are prepared.
But are you privy to this intelligence which has been raised by the religious leaders?
I don't want to put it in that manner, because it would be interesting that you are privy to that kind of information and nobody has been arrested. That would not be real. What we can say is we have capacity to be able to get a lot of information and anticipate that anything can happen. I've just told you that we have gangs and they can be misused by political leaders. But we are quite prepared that in event that such like incidences occur, then we should be able to manage them.
Right, and we're seeing also great migration of, I should say, the voters to other parts of the country right now, because people are saying this is all about security reasons, and people are saying also maybe they're going because this is where they're registered as voters. What is your position on this as well?
I think during the registration of voters, you found that there was a lot of transfer of votes from one constituency to another, and people also moving to other places. For example, the constituency where I live, in the rural home, live about the constituency here, I know very many friends who are going home to try and maybe vote in their sitting MP for one reason or another. So you find a number of people are moving in to vote in the people they like. For example, you come from, let's say, Vihiga, and maybe from your village, you feel that your MP for the local area has done so well, and you have a feeling that you need to support him. People move to support. But I've not seen any case, because I've seen you also interviewing many people at the bus stations.
Right.
I've not seen anyone coming up to say that maybe he feels threatened.
Of course, you don't expect them to say that on camera, do you? Right? All right.
Yeah, they would.
Let's get to your reaction also, Professor Midamba.
Debarl, let me take it to a fundamental, and that is the right to vote is a privilege and the highest honor for any citizen in Kenya to practice. That is what our constitution has given us as a fundamental. Not to vote will deny us the opportunity to create a democratic society and the harmony of our society to evolve and develop. Citizens have the right to be worried, okay, because of the past practices. They are remembering 1992. They're remembering 2007. I have faculty and staff who are worried, you know, and I have to take people in the boardroom, reassure them everything is going to be fine. I have students who are worried, who say we need to travel because I don't know if they will allow me to travel. But the point what Charles Owino is talking about here is every Kenyan collectively together can make all of us and create the sense of peace that we need. You know, the people hiring grunts and all those kind of things, they're not working at the best interest of our people. So people really need to play their role actively to make this country peaceful.
Right. Dr. Werunga, this particular intelligence that has been given by the Dialogue Reference Group, the religious leaders, of course, is it's a niggling worry, because down on the ground as well, from the information that we have, especially from the slums, we have certain ethnic groups that are being told, you should be vacating, or they're just doing it voluntarily. I don't know if you're privy to this, or maybe you've had something from the ground. I know you're always keeping out your ears for this as well.
My stand is different, and I think I've mentioned this. In this country, we have too many busybodies on matters of security. And I'm not saying our religious leaders are busybodies. I think during these times, every group will come up and talk about insecurity, fear. And yet we have a police service that I believe is ready and prepared to take charge of this. This issue of every organization coming up and talking about insecurity, about peace, with reasons and no factors and fundamentals being shared with us to understand why they think Kenyans are fearful, I think plays very badly for this country. And therefore my stand has always been, this many busybodies, and I'll use that word because busybodies in the security sector, I think if they have issues that they think impacts negatively on the people of this country, we have a police service. And being religious leaders, they should have gone and shared with the police service before they come to the media to say what they are saying. Because what are they doing? They are playing into the hands of those who are actually planning bad things, and yet this is something they should not be telling us on the media. They should share with the police. Because one, as religious leaders, they have a captive audience. When they go to church, there's an audience that is ready for them. They can actually be explaining to them what they think need not to be done. Number two, they have a civic duty as religious leaders, and I'm using the word leaders. They have a civic duty to share what they believe is not right with people who are mandated under the law to secure this country. So personally, I don't believe in everybody waking up every morning and telling Kenyans that we are insecure, we are not safe, people are traveling. We have them. Whether we like them or not, the Constitution created them. The Constitution gave them the mandate to secure us. If we feel they are not doing their work well, we have a responsibility through the court processes to deal with them.
Right, let's hear from Captain Collins Wanderi. First of all, this intelligence, we should be worried, as they are saying, maybe they're actually just talking, without facts. But truly, we don't have religious leaders just coming to the fore and holding a press conference if they don't have concrete information. Right? We don't know what is happening also with intelligence, because we've heard from the spokesperson, or Charles Owino, saying that they are not privy to this intelligence at all.
I think, Debarl, one of the things that we have to do as a people and as a country is to really look at ourselves and ask ourselves this one question. What purpose does an alarmist statement that you have intelligence that so and so will do this? When you say something is called intelligence, it's information that has been collected, collated, analyzed, and actually tested to the point that this is credible in terms of credibility. Now, if, as Captain Werunga is saying, you have information and you have all manner of raw data, okay? And today I did meet somebody who said, I know you doing security analysis. Are you talking to Ajiko on the ground about security? And that jolted me, and the person said, everybody's fleeing. Everybody in my plot has left. And so I made a point of just doing, basically physically. I went to the Kenya Railways, and I asked people near chemists, why are you guys traveling to Eldoret? And one person told me, my vote is in Eldoret. My vote is in Busia. My vote is in Malamba. So they are traveling to vote. So you see, you can receive bits and bits of information from sections of Nairobi residents, telling you that I'm moving, and then you create a hype that people are moving because of insecurity. I have seen the Inspector General assure members of the public that he has enough forces and enough men and women on the ground to protect the citizens. And it's also wrong to keep hyping that people are moving because of insecurity when people clearly tell you that they are moving because they want to go and vote. Now today, I had also a check of my own professional colleagues, and I asked them, are you going to be in Nairobi? I know they are Nairobi residents. I know they voted here in 2013. But one of them clearly told me, I am moving to Kisii because my brother is vying as an MCA. Another one told me, I am moving to Tarbo in Eldoret because the person who is vying for MCA is my relative. The person who is vying for MP is also a person known to me. So I said, well, you see, we can receive these bits and bits of information, but until religious leaders can provide information that is systematically collated, analyzed, and then tested, subjected to the test of credibility, that this is then useful for purposes of, because you're going to use that intelligence to deploy. And if you listen to Mr. Owino here, he said they've been analyzing. That's why they know what area to name as hotspot.
Thank you.
So I don't think religious leaders,
All right.
I think they should measure their words.
All right, first of all, okay, we need to also drill deeper with the conversation. Looking at the security preparations and what is happening right now, of course, the biggest also story is about Chris Msando as well. And Moses Kuria has been adversely mentioned in this particular saga as well. We're wondering, has he recorded a statement with the police? Because we've not heard anything about this particular scenario as well.
Mentioned by who?
It is in the public domain.
Because you don't expect me to talk like a layman. I must talk professionally. I know there is an alleged posting by Moses Kuria on Facebook on the morning that the vehicle was gotten.
We've got pictures of him on newspapers
and
pointing at the car.
And yes, but those pictures are gotten from Facebook. What we need to do as police is to establish whether those Facebook cuttings are actually real or just created, because we have many Facebook accounts that have just been constructed. So I cannot rely on that. Number two, the issue of Chris Msando is a very sensitive issue, given the position that he was holding. And I would be very grateful, I'm quite grateful to Kenyans in the manner that they have reacted to the unfortunate death of Chris Msando. Because contrary to the usual behavior of Kenyans, we would have seen demonstrations. But Kenyans have given us opportunity to concentrate on the coming elections.
So I'm sorry,
just a minute.
What really
just a minute. This is a very sensitive issue, especially on the police and the nation. So let me finish, because Kenyans would like to hear what the police spokesperson is saying about this matter. What I'm saying is that we are grateful to Kenyans for the manner in which they have handled themselves and the trust they have given us to investigate the matter and give them a result. We are avoiding speculations, and that is why you find that even for the few stages that we've gone through, we have not given out information.
All right, so
because there is a danger of giving out information, because it can be, you'll find somebody can be able to run out of the evidence that we have in event that we give them correct information or exact information on how far we've gone. So I think we are doing so well as far as investigations are concerned, and I think very soon the DCI will be able
investigations to before he records a statement.
You are taking me back to Moses Kuria, and
yes,
I answered you.
Because we just wanted
why
to know.
Why are you forcing me to tell you that he has recorded a statement? And I've told you I'm not giving you any evidence on what we are doing. Why are you forcing me? Do you have a personal problem with him?
No, we don't have a personal. We just need to.
Do you want to incite? Do you want to incite the public against him? If there is anything that he's supposed to do, he must do it. If it's record a statement, according to the investigators, he could have recorded. But I've told you, we are not giving any information.
So I'm just wondering, is it out of his own volition that he should come and record a statement, or it is the honors of a police to ask him to record a statement?
Excuse me, Debarl. I've told you two things, and you have refused to listen because you have a formed mind. I've told you that it is our duty to confirm whether that Facebook account was actually genuine or not. If the investigators find that it was genuine, definitely he has to record a statement.
All right.
I have personally recorded a statement.
Right, thank you. We need to take a short break
because
right
he reported to me that his life was threatened, and I referred him. I've personally recorded a statement. Why are you not asking me if I have not recorded a statement?
Right, thank you. We take a short break right now. When we come back, of course, we continue with this conversation with our power panel here on Decision 2017. Welcome back. You're watching Decision 2017, and conversation continues apace here with our security analyst here, talking about security and election, of course, and drilling deeper on the demise of Chris Msando, the former ICT expert in IBC. And I want just to also throw this particular question to you, first of all. Do you agree and hold with the position that is being espoused here by Charles Owino, that they have to do the investigation first, then this person will come and record a statement, or maybe he's not revealing that particular information? Just a moment.
No. You know, I can be very bad when you want to mislead the nation. I did not say that we have to record statements first before Moses Kuria records his statement. Remember, I'm a CID officer. Don't look at my uniform. That is my background for many years. I've said very clearly that when you are relying on the Facebook account, on what was released on the day that the vehicle was found, then the investigators must first of all establish whether that Facebook account is genuine or not genuine.
Thank you.
After they have done that, they would, if it is genuine, then definitely he has to record a statement.
Right.
But I've also, just a minute, I've also told you that given the sensitivity of the matter, we agreed that information should be collected, should be followed before we give out everything to the public. Chris has died.
Right, thank you.
And what is most important,
I'll give an opportunity.
excuse me.
No, I'll give an opportunity to continue.
No.
But we
excuse
the
me.
reaction of
Let me tell you, he may react as an activist. He's no longer a military officer. I hold the interest of this nation, especially on security.
Thank you.
For your information,
yes,
I am a close friend to Chris Msando. He comes from my village. Apart from being a Kenyan and a national a police officer and a spokesperson for a police officer, I have a responsibility, and it touches me more than you.
Thank you. Let's hear from Dr. Werunga. Your reaction on this as well.
I want to tell Charles, and we've been friends for a long time, I take offense for you to call me an activist.
No, I've said you can answer. No, it's good to listen.
Right.
You may answer like an activist. I didn't call you an activist. I believe your language is perfect.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. All right. Let's go full speed with the discussion, please.
Thank you. Okay. Charles has a responsibility to speak on behalf of the police. But I also want to look at this issue, and we've had this discussion. I know the context in which this death took place might be very sensitive to the nation. But I also understand that the context in which this thing happened, the high-octane politics, my thinking will be different from his. That probably, even if you don't want to share much with the public, but I think the anxiety and the rumor mongering and whatever is being done in this country through even the social media, probably you'll play a better role when from time to time you just share with Kenyans that the investigations have reached this point. We shall share with you when we get more information. To me, that will play in pulling down the anxiety, stopping rumor mongering, and therefore we are not demanding that you tell us what you are doing. But I think for the good of this country, the high-octane politics that we have now, it will have been wiser to my thinking, that it will not be anything wrong for you to be giving Kenyans snippets from time to time, just to cool the temperatures, to make people know that you're on top of this case, and therefore as we move towards the elections, Kenyans know our police service is on this case. That is my view.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And of course, Captain Collins Wanderi, first of all, the lack of information is giving, a spawning ground for all this speculation that is going about, because we don't have, as it says, good information that is being given to the public. And of course, as citizens, we have a right to speculate, right? We want to know what really happened. They've been saying, no, let's not give room for speculation. But in the void of concrete information, how then do we react?
Debarl, the citizens have a right to information. That's true, and it is important to give information when it is necessary to cool tempers and at the same time reduce anxiety. Let me say this. Chris Msando's sister is a close friend of mine. somebody I have known for many years. And I said condolences to the family. And so even when I speak, I'm speaking on I may not be as close to him like Mr. Owino, but this is a person whose sister is a person I almost talk with, if not daily, on a weekly basis. And I know what the family is going through. But as it may, there is something we must not lose sight. An investigator goes where the evidence leads them. That's the very basis of the process of investigation. There is something that Mr. Owino has said which seems to have escaped, and we must stress this to the viewers, that the last statement they released, they said they have interrogated 6 people, and they're still looking for more people of interest. Now, Debarl, in investigations, it is wrong to give the people you would wish to talk to prior information and notice that you may want to talk to them, especially in a homicide case, in a murder case. And this is a double murder. Remember, we are talking of the death of 2 people.
Yes.
We have the Mr. Msando himself, the late Msando, and the late Karo Wairimugumbu. So these are 2 families, and you have to deal with the anxiety. So it's a tough balancing act for the police. Whereas at the same time, they may want to give information to reduce the anxiety around the nation and to cool the political temperatures. They are also in a tight situation where Mr. Owino used the word where you make suspects have anticipatory, or you give anticipatory information which makes them even flee, because that is what would happen. If somebody knows they've been mentioned and they are likely to be part of the suspect, then they will most likely take off. And this is not a good thing, because we must give them, I want once at least say that let us trust our National Police Service. And if, and they said that if they get to a point, and I would advise them to, if they get to a point where they feel they may need the assistance of another agency, local or foreign, so be it, let them get it. But let the information they give be so guarded so that we do not give suspects or possible suspects reason to flee before they get hold of them. It would be wrong.
Thank you.
Yes.
All right, let's hear from Professor Midamba.
Debarl shared the sentiment of Captain Wanderi and Captain Werunga. And Charles, what happened is people look back, at the history and the track record, and they say, well, so-and-so disappeared, there were no answers, so-and-so disappeared, there were no answers. And then they form an opinion and rumors, and there are so many busybodies in Kenya, incredible rumors. I think the Kenyan people have really restrained themselves since this situation come. I have not seen outpouring of people on the street, calling for this and that. So that is a very important thing. My urging to the great work you are doing and your colleagues is use every asset that you can to uncover this situation, close the chapter, get it open to the Kenyan people know, such that going back to what Captain Wanderi said, use every asset, including local and foreign, to demonstrate to Kenya, yes, we can do it. And nobody has the right to take on the life of another Kenyan.
All right.
Like this case.
In the lack of information is what also we're experiencing with KDF right now, especially with the Cabinet Secretary and the Ministry of Defense, and what was happening with also the military spokesperson, Mr. Worth. First of all, we want to know how is Operation Dumisha Utulivu working, And of course, this is a multi-sectoral agency coming together so far. And maybe you can bring us up to speed and tell us, yes, the involvement of KDF has also been a ticklish issue in the public domain. Of course, this is also enshrined in the Constitution, as we're given to understand, and we'll be looking at it so far. But you can tell us, give us a clear picture today, because we understand also some officers are being deployed. Also, the IPOA, I think also they are deploying some of the monitors in some of the counties, or all the 47 countries in the country.
Yeah, thanks. I would not want to comment on the so-called Operation Tuliza.
Yes.
Because I remember KDF stated categorically that it never existed. But what I can tell you is that for some times now, we have had multi-agency training between us.
What's never existed? The operation
I think that is what I saw. I don't speak for KDF, but that's what I saw from the cabinet secretary. What I can say,
is the police part of this particular multi-agency, operation?
We have a number of multi-agency trainings that we've done together with the KDF, and maybe from the KDF Act, you will find that there are situations when KDF officers may even help the police when there is a restoration of peace, or when there's emergency, or when there's disaster. It's provided for, and there are regulations for that. But equally, if you go to the KDF Act, section 35(9), it tells you that members of KDF forces deployed as per the subsection 1 shall receive appropriate training prior to any deployment. Now, you don't receive training on the day there is need for deployment. It is clear in law that KDF can support the nation when there's an emergency or when there is disaster. That is found under Article 241 3B of the Constitution. But in that case, they say when you deploy the KDF for emergency or disaster, then you only report to the National Assembly whenever they are deployed. But 3C says that when you deploy them to restore peace in any part of the country by unrest or instability, then you need approval of the National Assembly. But the challenge is that much of what we may see are cases of emergency. For example, if we want to distribute food, if there is need to distribute food, yes, or we want to carry out evacuations and such like things, you may need not to go and look for authority from anyone to go and drop food and so on. For example, today, if we can have a disaster for any reason, either it is a pre-election, a post-election disaster, or any other disaster along the beaches, we would definitely have to call in Navy to pick tourists maybe at the beaches and then bring them to, with the boats, bring them to Kilindini. We may not go to Parliament to do that. Yeah. Because this is an emergency and it requires support. Right. If today, for example, there is flooding, there's a situation where we have to use aircrafts, maybe even to support in dropping ballot papers or even picking.
Thank you.
We may not need to go to Parliament. So there are a number of assistance that KDF can give or support.
Right, thank you.
The service that is not necessary. But I think what brings problems is when people try to imagine that KDF would be deployed maybe to cause disruptions. I don't think our country is at a level that we can do that. But we can deploy them in terms of emergency or disaster, or to support the police in accordance to the law.
Right, but of course, if we hark back also to what happened in 2007, 2008, and this was also in the Waki Commission, the report itself.
Yes.
Similar claims were made in relations to the 2007 elections. Yes. That we had the police, especially in Tambach incident, in which the police leadership masterminded the distribution of hateful leaflets against Raila Odinga, the main challenger to President Mwai Kibaki. I don't know if you can react to this very briefly before we hand over also to my colleague Larry Mado, who's standing by.
Yeah, I think, yes, the law is very clear, but I think the kind of emergency that the law talks about is not necessarily the kind of emergency Mr. Owino is talking about. I took my time to go through the Constitution, And I think the emergency that they talk about is under 58. The lawyer, can you...
58 of the Act?
Of the Constitution.
Of the Constitution.
Yes, and it says...
This is
when the president declares an emergency...
Excuse me.
When
you want to read it,
yes.
You know,
just
you know, just a minute.
Let
me correct him.
Yes.
Let me correct him. You know, when you are talking about deployment of military, you restrict yourself to 241 of the Constitution and section, I think, 31 to 35 of the KDF Act. When you want to refer to any other portion, it must be as read.
Thank you. Fair enough.
So let me now finish what I was saying. It says very clearly, KDF can be deployed under 3 circumstances: emergencies, disasters, and restoration of peace.
Yes.
Those are 3 different categories where you can deploy the Kenya Defense Forces. Now, I want to imagine that if the president deploys, or the National Security Council, through the approval of the National Assembly, is deploying the defense forces in terms of emergencies, I want to imagine. And I
also want to correct
just a
you.
moment. Let him finish.
Let him not finish. No, let him not finish. Let me help him. No, let me help him. What I'm saying is, you don't need the National Assembly to approve.
All right.
Excuse me.
No. I'm under pressure also to actually finish this conversation.
Let me help him before he spoils everything.
We need to observe some.
Let me just help him.
No, I won't allow you. Let him finish.
All right.
Just finish.
My understanding is that a state of emergency, Part 4, state of emergency, 58 of the Constitution, may be declared only under Article 132(4)(d), and only when A, the state is threatened by war, invasion, general insurrection, disorder, natural disaster, or other public emergency, and the declaration is necessary to meet the circumstances for which the emergency is declared. That is the law. Now,
why don't you let me correct that?
Let him finish.
No.
Just about one now.
Excuse me. Why don't we correct that before he finishes?
Let him finish.
No.
Give a point to
Excuse me. It's not fair for him to mislead the nation. He's talking about state of emergency. Article 241B, excuse me, where we have the defense forces, is not talking about state of emergency. It is talking about in situations of emergency or disaster. These are 2 different things.
My brother. And the only person or the only institution to do that. We had a heated argument here, and I don't want to feel like saying what is not right, and I don't want to argue on something that might not have the capacity. No, the law is interpreted by the courts. That's why people go to court for interpretation of the law. That's what the Constitution says. So any other person, even if we have lawyers, they'll always go to court for interpretation of the law. So I don't want to get there. I think I'll be happy if we speak on things that are very clear.
Thank you.
Under this.
Captain Wanderi, we want to clarify all this, then we move to other issues as well.
Just simply to say this, I think when we are talking about soliciting the assistance of the defense forces, Article 58 of the Constitution is irrelevant because it actually falls under the Chapter 4, which is of the Bill of Rights and circumstances for delimitation of Bill of Rights, rather than on the deployment of defense forces. And this is in the rules of what we call the canons of interpretation of law. First, we look at the placement of the chapters of the law and even the chapters of the Constitution, as well as the then enabling legislation that interprets that section. So if we are to talk about the deployment of defense forces to assist the police in terms of emergency and disaster, we would critically focus on Article 241 as read together with sections 31 to 35 of the Kenya Defense Forces Act, number 25 of 2012. We will not be looking elsewhere because the other article in the Constitution talks of totally different things under the chapter on the Bill of Rights.
All right, let's hear from Charles as we're going up on this, then we'll come to you.
I agree with him, and that is what I was saying. But I would also want to tell my friend Werunga, that we cannot run away from interpretation, especially when it comes to operational matters, because we must deploy. So as a retired captain and as a policeman, it is still fair that we understand it in the simplest way possible. And my argument was that we could not, in this case of assistance that the police would seek from the military, be taken to Article 58. I said we restrict ourselves to 241 as read with sections 31 to 35 of the KDF Act. And my concern is that you are aware that Parliament is not going to sit at this particular time until after another Parliament is put in place. But we would like to tell Kenyans that there are situations that under Article 241 3B, that we don't need necessarily to pick on the authority of the National Assembly to be assisted, especially on emergencies or disasters. Because even when there are floods and maybe we need to evacuate and we need maybe an aircraft.
I want to say something before, Prof.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
Yes.
You know, I asked a question here and nobody answered. The determinants that create what is to be declared a state of emergency and what is emergency under Article 241 are not explained in law. And that's why I'm saying, as we sit here, there's no competence on this table to interpret this law for Kenyans to understand exactly. Because when you say this emergency is under police, assistant to national police, 241, and then this one is talking about the declaration of an emergency, and it speaks about the same things, disaster, emergency. I think we have no competence on this table.
I think it's also,
wrong
to say, Debarl, it is also wrong for Captain Werunga to mislead. There is a law in this country on that. There is a Preservation of Public Security Act as read together with the Public Order Act. And the Public Order Act is what the police use to deal with riots and unrest, in civil unrest. Now, when it escalates, then you employ the Preservation of Public Security Act, and that is where state of emergency is defined and how it escalates up to the point where a state of emergency is declared.
Let me read this, and I don't want to go beyond this.
As well as
let it finish.
We do not have the public.
Werunga, are you trying to imply that no? I want to ask a question.
Just
let me finish.
I'm moderating. Let him finish his case.
Because here we have two other laws, okay, which we are not getting into here. The Preservation of Public Security Act and the Public Order Act. Mr. Owino knows when they are declaring a riot that you now seize, what law do they use? The Public Order Act. When you are declaring an area a security zone, which law do you use? The Preservation of Public Security Act. And it goes further to define then what is a state of emergency.
I want to finish.
I don't want us to go into this context of
Debarl, this is a sensitive issue, but I want to ask him one question.
Yes.
Is there a situation we can deploy military to assist us without authority of Parliament?
Yes.
Just answer the Republic.
Yes. When Parliament is not in session and the President is given 7 days to inform the Speaker if he's not there, the National Security Council will determine how that is going to be deployed. Right. But as I finish 58, I want to debunk this friend of mine here. A state of emergency may be declared only, listen to me very carefully, the word is only, under Article 132(4)(d), and only when the state is threatened by war, invasion. So bringing here preservation of public order.
But then, don't close it. Just a minute. There is a difference between state of emergency and emergency. And when you leave here, go and take your time and read it.
Let's hear from you. Let me, Debarl, address this from a global standpoint, and I will quote former Joint Chief of Staff of the U.S. and also former Secretary of State, Colin Powell. Powell said that soldiers are warriors. They're trained to kill. If you have to use them for civilian purposes, for any reason, there are two criteria that must be met. One, this duty must be selective and limited in nature. And two, They must have clear mission and exit strategy.
Thank you. All right. Also, Charles, we want to hear from you. Of course, we've had IBC chair asking that they should actually be assigned security personnel because of this critical election that we're headed to. Has that has that particular request been observed?
Yes, that has been done, and I think this morning we have deployed extra 52 officers from REC company to secure the IBC commissioners. Equally, the Inspector General has given very clear instructions, especially on arrows, because these are the people that are most important, that the counties and the county commanders and the OSPDs have to give them sufficient security during the polling hours up to the point of declaration of results, and also to enable them to forward their results to the constituency tallying centers, and then the national tallying centers. And this is a very clear instruction from the Inspector General, and we are observing that very keenly. And if need be, we will be able to deploy even more security from our standby forces, especially from the General Service Unit and the REC company.
All right.
Yes.
Also, we're given to understand that yes, they've deployed some military also to, take charge of the mass that will be transmitting some of, the results to the polling stations as well. But the question is, why are we not, as a country, also taking charge of making sure that election systems in this country are declared a national critical infrastructure? What are we waiting for?
I think, Debarl, if you have been following the debate between the National Police Service and the IBC, and for the first time, we've said it during the other shows, that we've seen quite a lot of synchronized working, where you have the IBC chair and the IG read from the same script on certain things. And I'm happy when Mr. Owino says they have added extra security to the IBC officials. That needs not to be gainsaid. However, when it comes to critical infrastructure, you remember recently, after the unfortunate loss of one of the officials, the top officials, the chairman said that their servers and there are even what is called the disaster recovery plans and the business continuity plans are fully secured. What he meant, and he said he doesn't want to get into the details, for the reason perhaps the arrangement they have with the National Police Service is to secure them in a manner where that not everybody knows where they are, because that then becomes critical infrastructure. Just like as it is, if you want to and there's a place for where the missile bombs are, you probably, perhaps you will know they are secured, but you will not be told where. And perhaps we would want to trust them at this point that they are doing the right thing. However, let's mention on when you talk about the critical infrastructure, we going into an election which is heavily dependent on technology, and heavily dependent on technology to the extent of identification of voters and to the transmission of results, and that is critical. And this is why if you look at the frontier counties, the Tana River, Lamu, Garissa, Wajir, Mandera, and to some extent parts of Marsabit, then you need to deploy Kenya Defense Forces, because that is their forte. That is a front. Those are the border areas. And as late as yesterday, but one, we had an attack on Lafay police station in Mandera. And if you can see that the Al-Shabaab were able to use rocket-propelled grenades to hit at a police installation, that then caused critically, and we in fact, we cannot be gainsaid that at that point, then we stop because we are putting our police officers at risk, because they do not have the equipment and the capability to respond to that kind of threat.
All right, Captain Werunga, you might want also to...
Yes, I think, and I think I'm in the know, that after Westgate attack, there was a serious discussion on matters of critical infrastructure to the nation. And I know there's a policy that came out. I know a friend of mine who was in charge of Kengen, and as we were discussing about our water pillars, our power generation installations, I think that is the first time the government sat down under the National Security Council to come up. I don't know whether they came up with a policy per se, but I know from after the Westgate, there was a serious undertaking to secure. And I believe there's a plan for that. What I don't have, or what I cannot competently say, is whether it came out as a policy or as a plan. But I know there was a serious discussion in Harambee House. National Security Advisory Committee discussed that issue at length, and most of these other organs that actually are critical to the survival of this country, for example, the water towers, the power generating installations, and anything that was determined by the National Security Council. So I know there's something in place. I don't know whether it is a plan or is a policy, but yes, something was done after that.
Something was done, and of course there have been a lot of deployment of police officers, and we're wondering, of course, also with this critical installation like the water towers, we know we need also police officers, like a large contingent of police officers. I'm given to understand maybe for one water tower we'll have like 12 police officers, but right now maybe it might it has been scuttled down to, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. Maybe you'll tell us of this, but we want to hear from Professor. What is your reaction, especially on the critical infrastructure? Why are we slow on the uptake to make it, you know, a critical infrastructure in the country?
Debarl, when we look at security, you cannot just look at one element of it. There is a whole string that tie all together, from inward and then out. So there are 3 critical things here that are important. One is protection of vital economic resources, including fiscal infrastructure. That's one. Second, prevention of terrorist insurgencies that are coming in to attack us within and without. And thirdly, reduction of localized conflict, you know, Samburu, and all that kind of thing. That's all tied together in a way. And therefore, you're looking at the use of police that, that Charles has talked about. And then on the border, you're looking at the military. You know, so all those things, all those contingencies strategically got to be communicating with each other.
Right, Charles.
Yeah, I think with first of all, with the promulgation of the Constitution 2010 and the Police Service Act, the Administration Police Service was given a very critical role, which was new to the usual roles on protection of vital installations and government buildings. And that is the unit that would be used even for water towers and such like. Now, if you look at IBC, at the time of election like this, you find a bit of their infrastructure is not static. It's like, for example, if you talk about BVR, you have to deploy it to every polling center and polling stations, so it is not static. At that particular moment, it is given the necessary protection that a critical infrastructure would be given. It's a small equipment, but it is given all the protection that it requires. But if you now come to the IBC headquarters, you find that we have treated it as a critical infrastructure because throughout the year, whether it is before or after, like now even after these elections, we'll continue protecting the IBC headquarters up to, again, the next elections. So as much as it may appear that it has not been declared a critical infrastructure, but if you look at the mode at which we are handling the institution, and even if you go to their stores, we give them security throughout. They're handled in the same way. Maybe the power generation stations would be handled. So as much as it may not have been declared, but you see all our actions on the IBC infrastructure is taken care of.
All right.
But you talked about the masts,
yes,
for example. Not all masts would be protected by the military. Only masts that are in critical areas. Like, for example, if you go to along the borders, like in Boni, in Lamu, just like he had said, you know, police cannot be given same equipment and capacity as the Kenya Defence Forces. The Kenya Defence Forces has a critical role to protect the country from external aggression. The population of the police is very high. So if you give the police equivalent infrastructure, equipment and capacity as the military, then you demystify the role of the military, because we are many. We can overrun the military. So practically, the military will always have a higher equipment, because the security forces must be graded for purposes of management, discipline, and security of the nation. So if you go to such like areas like Mandera, like Wajir, where we would have external aggression, especially now with the problems of insurgencies of Al-Shabaab and terror, then there is need to deploy military.
All right. Now, allow us just to give closing remarks as we're winding up, and I'll give you also handy opportunity to speak to Kenyans, just also to quell the fears, if there is any, about the coming up general election next week. So let's begin with you, Captain Wanderi.
Yeah, Debarl, to our fellow Kenyans, we are getting into a critical time. We've been preparing for this election for a long time. A lot of things have happened, but it has now come to the crunch time. And the thing that I would want to tell Kenyans is, one, is that the IEBC have said they are ready in terms of their materials and distribution of their materials and officers and their equipment. The police have also confirmed that they have deployed adequately. Now, what I would want to tell fellow citizens is that any policeman, any police officer in uniform is your friend. Any police officer wears that uniform at the behest of the Republic, and the Republic is Kenyans. That police officer is not your enemy. Do not see him. He's an agent of the state. He's not an agent of a political party. He's not an agent of a candidate. A police officer is a protector of life and property. Do not raise disaffection against our police officers. They're going to be under very tough situations. They're going to work and where, as Mr. Owino has confirmed, where they may even need assistance of other agencies, they may call upon them. And it is upon us and incumbent upon us to behave in a manner that also ensures that the police give us the best service that they can.
Fair enough. Let's hear from Professor Midamba, the closing remarks.
My fellow Kenyan, creating harmonious, coherent society will require the following. One is citizen awareness of issues that are presented to us. Second is high level of you citizen participation. And third is high level of ownership of issues that are presented. Next is high level of tolerance over diverse opinion. And lastly, commitment to civil rights of every Kenyan citizen.
Thank you, Professor Midamba. Let's hear from Captain.
Yes, I think three issues. One, we request our police service, whenever they are called upon to uphold law and order, we request that they operate within the law. These Kenyans are your brothers and sisters. Sometimes we see some sorts of overbearing, but we ask them that let them not be the initiator of problems during these elections. Let them do professional work. We know most of them are very professional. And then secondly, we ask Kenyans to obey the law. They need to respect the police. They need to know that the law must be obeyed even during elections, and let them stick and operate within the law. And thirdly, even where Kenyans see the military, if they are not in any way part of the general operations of this deployment, yes, they need to understand that the military is also deployed, for example, for critical infrastructure. Yeah. So that is my request to Kenyans, to the police service, to the military, so that we go through these elections and debunk the myth that the world has about this country.
Right. Charles Owino, this is the opportunity.
Thank you so much. I would want to tell Kenyans that we are committed to providing security and ensuring that there is a free, fair, and credible election for our nation, because we need this country for the purpose of our development and growth. We need to do more business, make more money, have a peaceful environment, and be happy for the days that God will give us to live in the country. I want to assure Werunga that in event that we are called upon to quell any small riot or something, we'll do it within the law. Actually, the equipment we have brought, especially the water cannons, we've done it in such a way that we have put in very good colorations. That if we throw it at you,
you become white.
No. It sticks. So I don't need to struggle. I'll just follow you, pick you peacefully, and take you to court.
Thank you.
The only problem is that it's a bit itchy. So I have to warn, especially the ladies, please avoid it. But we're not threatening anyone. What I'm saying is that we have a responsibility as a nation, and I want to ask all Kenyans, please assure us, the police, that you are going to keep peace. Assure us of your security. It is Kenyans to ensure that they don't attack their brothers. They must be tolerant, as Professor said. They must be people who obey the law. We only have one day to vote. Let us vote peacefully. And I would request, on the night prior to elections, let us agree with our local chiefs where we are that we limit movements, so that if anybody is planning to attack, to disrupt, then we will be able to determine that these people moving at night are not supposed to move. Otherwise, best of luck. We will take care of you. We are highly professional. And please don't provoke us. Let us just remain brothers and sisters.
Thank you. All right, fair enough. And I want to thank you, my panelist, Captain Dr. Simiyu Werunga, who is the CEO of African Center for Security and Strategic Studies. Also, Captain Wanderi, who's an advocate of the High Court, and also a security analyst, Professor Midamba, who is an expert on defense and foreign policy, also the VC, the Vice Chancellor of KCA University. I want to thank you very much also for your valued company. Also remember, we shall be continuing covering live, of course, wall-to-wall, wire-to-wire, live coverage of the final campaign, the final stretch of NASA and Jubilee. That will be happening tomorrow here on NTV. Thank you very much for your valued company. I am Debarl.